Alright guys, just about got everything off the car. I've got the doors off, I've got to rebuild the hinges. Got this trunk lid off. He brought me a new one. Well, new to this car. I think it's older than what came off of here, but it's at least straight. Got all this trim off here, bumpers off. This door is off. Lots of slack in these hinges. I'll be rebuilding those. Probably paint the door jambs while they're off, might as well. This is the replacement part he brought me. Now it's got 67 molded into it right here, so I'm assuming it's off of 67. Well, it'd be a 68 because they didn't make this car in 67, but that's, these dots here make me think that might be the month that it was made, but probably off a 68 model. Some minor differences here. Got some little brackets here that need to be taken out that aren't in the other one. Those aren't there in that corner, so I'll have to take those out and fill those two holes in. That one there and this one. This one's also got these little guides here that aren't on the other one. There's just two holes in here and they're not even used, so there's nothing there. I'll probably have to fill this hole in. May leave it, depends on what he wants to do. I'm just trying to get all the old hardware off this one so I can transfer the hardware off that, since it's in better condition. After I get this painted red inside, I can transfer the hardware over. So right now I'm just getting all this off. Everything's loose. Just got to get everything pulled over enough to get it off the latches and clean this up. It's still dirty from wherever it's sat for years, so I just need to wash this in here so I can get it jammed and fit to the car. Alright, I've got the door pins and bushings replaced. I had to actually drill these top ones out here. The pin had actually worn into the hinge, so I bought an oversized pack of bushings with the same inner diameter, and I had to remove the bottom to get access for the drill to come up this way to drill these holes out. I can't go down this way or I'll hit the fender, but these are oversized in the top, so this hinge is actually tight now. I'll put this one back on later. I'm probably gonna have to end up may have to take this whole hinge out just to stop some of this rust in here. And I think what I may end up having to do to fix all this is take this fiberglass cover off the A-pillar here and replace it so I can access all the rust behind it. I don't want to just paint over that. I could pour 15 this area and then pour some back in behind there, but I don't know what all I'm gonna get or how bad it is behind there. So I'd rather just pull it off. You can buy these pieces, pull it off and get back there and actually fix all this. I can't get this upper hinge off because the bolts go in from the back. So unless there's a way to get up from underneath here to these 4 bolts, I'm gonna have to pull at least this section of the dash back on both sides, if not the whole thing, to be able to get the hinges out if I have to. But while I was waiting on those bushings to show up, I started on the deck lid that he brought me. I got it fitted. Fits pretty well. Got everything loaded into it so that I could check all the latches and everything off, the stuff off the red deck lid I put in here, just so that I could latch it, make sure everything fit and the latches would all work, and I could get the convertible top to fit down onto the pins and receivers that are right here. I put everything in the green trunk lid so that I could latch the convertible top in here and align everything so that I know when I go back to put it in later that everything's gonna work. So right now I'm just fixing all these little scratches and gouges from either from shipping or storage over the years right in here. And I got one section here on the edge I need to add a little bit of material. But I've gone through and I've taken the seal off and cleaned that area up real well, sanded it down with the 180. I'm not really worried about seeing scratches behind the seal. So I've got that in 180 so that the paint will stick really well. And I'll spot prime these places that I've fixed and anywhere else that needs to be primed a little bit. But all this rust is from transfer from the latches, so I'll just sand all that away. One little piece, I think I mentioned earlier that this deck lid was off of probably a 68. So it's got some access holes here Thought about filling these holes in. This piece right here, I'm just gonna have to reattach. It fell off in shipping. But I don't want to fill these holes in and kind of make this thing where it can't go back to the original condition it was in. I've drilled holes for the seat bumpers here where the seats rest on the back of this. These holes were not here, but that could be filled in later on. I just don't want to make it any harder than necessary if this goes back on a different car one day. So I'm not going to fill these in where there was a little shim and an angled guide. There's actually some pins that go in the corners here for alignment, but there's no plate bonded or riveted to the shell to accept the screws that go in that. I could screw it into the fiberglass, but I don't think it'll hold very well. So I got it to latch without those being in there, so I'm just going to leave it out. That way I don't put any more holes in here than I have to. The outside is in pretty rough shape, but I think I can just sand through all that. I think it's all just in the paint. But for now, I'm just going to work on getting this smoothed out. And then when I flip it over and get the outside ready to prime, I'll spot prime in here. And then I'll flip it over where I can have it sitting on the center or something where there's no primer. And then prime the outside. That way I can do it all at one time. And once I get that done, I'll come back and start working on some of this rust in here and doing the actual repair work to the car itself, where there's material missing here and the damage on the quarter panel over here. This needs to be repaired. So I'm gonna have to get all that right there, push that back in and get that on the inside of the panel where it broke away, and do an inside repair first with some more fiberglass, and then come back and do the cosmetic part on the outside. But those are the two main places, that quarter panel and this fender over here, where I've actually got to do structural repair work, and the rest will just basically be cosmetic. But I'm gonna get this ready here and I'll be back when I'm ready to prime. Okay, ready to prime. I used some paint stripper to get most of everything off of it. Had 2 or 3 paint jobs on it. So I got probably down to the one after the original and just sanded the rest of the way off. And once I started getting into the fiberglass in a few places, I just stopped there. Down to what looks to be gel coat maybe. And I've got a layer of glaze over the entire thing that I've blocked out flat just to take the waves out where I got into the fiberglass. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this primed. I got primer ready to go. I'm gonna give it about at least 3 coats, 10 or 15 minutes in between. Okay, I didn't fully wet it out, but I've got enough on there. I got a closed coat, but I don't want any reactions with what's already there. I may still get some, but hopefully not too much. I'll give that about a good 10 to 15 minutes on that first coat to get all the solvents out so I don't bury anything, and I'll be back with another coat. All right, I've moved on to this quarter. I've got pretty much everything done on the deck here. I need to do a little bit of hand sanding in these vent holes. And I'm gonna probably just go ahead and from the back side fill this entire hole back in, and then drill what I need to out of it. Since I don't want to try to just add material here, it'd be easier to just bridge across it with some more fiberglass from underneath, and I'll just drill out where I need to. And I'll block all this out at one time and get it primed. I can leave all these repairs open since it's fiberglass. I don't have to worry about any bare metal rusting on me. So I'm just gonna go from there all the way around. And I've decided to get a used quarter panel for this and just patch a section in here. I mean, I've got damage from here all the way around where I've marked it with Sharpie here. And it actually goes into the light pocket slightly underneath here. And what I'd have to do is try to get the back of it flush again and fiberglass it from the back side to reinforce it, and then come out and do the outside. But if I cut this section of it out and take a donor section, I can add a bonding strip back through here and try to get to the original one back here and just add the outer piece to the bonding strips and not really have to do any work on the inside. That'll just leave me a seam across here and a seam all the way down behind here. I want to try to leave, there's a reinforcement that runs through back here where it's bonded to, so if I cut to the left of that, I'll just have one bond line here, and I'll try to radius it a little bit up here so I don't have a sharp corner. Come all the way down and use these body lines to line it back up, and then I'll get it flush in the back. That way I can avoid having to repair this light pocket and all these major cracks in places where the material is just was just barely hanging on. I broke these pieces on off just to see behind how bad it was loose. But I think that'll save me a lot of work, and it'll be a whole lot cleaner repair in the end if I just put a section back here. So I'm going to order one of those. I've already located a couple just because I was thinking about it. I'm going to go ahead and cut it where I want to cut it to get the bad spots out. I may go a little bit bigger than that once I get the piece, but I'm going to get the bad part cut out while I'm waiting on the piece to get here. I think after I cut that out, I'm probably going to move up to the front here and just start sanding everything I need to sand out, putting some filler just like I did on the rear clip. Just work my way around the front. Come over here. I got a little bit of work to do over here. There's some material missing here. Not too bad, just need to fill it in. And then this right here. What I think I can do here is when I get the used quarter in, as long as this radius is close to the same, this curvature, I can take a little piece out of the wheel well on the used quarter that I'm gonna get and patch this with a piece out of that donor quarter. If it'll work out, we'll see. If not, I'll just have to add material to that. But for now, I'm going to assume I can take a piece out of the rear wheel well that I'll get and add to that. And after I do that, all I'll have left is basically the doors, which don't really need much at all. I may do a skim coat of filler in a few places where they're kind of wavy just from the factory, trying to smooth them out a little bit. Then I'll pull them back off the car, do all the jams, and then I'll paint the outside, probably with the doors back on. I hadn't decided yet. I may paint the front clip and rear, paint the front one day, paint the rear another time, and then paint the doors off the car so I can do the jams while maybe I do the rear clip and put the doors back on. I'll just be really careful with them. And the hood will be its own little deal. I'll take it off the car and do it by itself. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and cut the quarter. And then that way it's already out of the way, and I'll move myself over here and go around the car. And when I get the quarter, I'll go back to putting it in. Okay, I moved on to this right front fender. I stripped back places where I saw that there were just small bubbles, like the paint was trying to come off. Major one right there went all the way down to, I think, the original fiberglass to get that one out. And there's a small one there, so it looks like somebody did a repair. You can see where they hit it with a grinder and then filled in something there. I'm not sure what they used. It's kind of a dark black color, maybe Bondo glass or something like that. And I was sanding over this area where the emblem goes, and there was a spot here that started to show up. And there was a deep chip right here, You're basically just sanding that out. I'm going to put a little primer over it and just block it. And the rest of it, right up here, there's just a slight depression. So I'm just going to put a little bit of glaze over that and these other places. Now, glaze can go over original paint, but I'm going to have to go ahead and put it over what's here because there's about 5 paint jobs on this thing, and it's not practical to just take all this off and be here all day, even with paint stripper, or all year, more than likely. So I'm just going to put some glaze over these spots, and I'll come back and block that out, and I'll try to prime. I'm going to try to prime the rear clip all at once, and then I'll do the front separately, and the hood will be, like I said, a separate job altogether. I'll have to strip it. It's got bubbled paint everywhere. All around the perimeter it's bubbled up. So I don't know how much of the paint is bubbled, if it's all the original that's coming up or what. So I got to go all the way through it. And I'll use paint stripper on that. But after I get done filling this, I'll come around the front. I don't think I really need any glaze or anything in the front here. I'll have to double check, but come back down this fender and I've got that piece I need to make right here. So I'll add that when I get to that point. But I'll probably steal a piece out of that quarter panel I'm going to buy. Alright guys, I've got the doors stripped down most of the way. I started with fiberglass paint stripper on both these doors. I started to strip the jambs, but I decided to go ahead with the outside, get this skimmed with some glaze, get it in primer, then I can flip it over. And once I sandblast all this, I'll put a little bit of filler in some pits, and then I can go straight to epoxy and then paint the jamb. That way I don't have to go back and sand it again. The epoxy will be green enough I can just paint over it. That'll save me a bunch of time priming and then sanding the jamb just to paint it. So I'll do this first, get it primed, flip it over, sandblast all this. Then I can do the epoxy and go directly to paint, and it'll be ready to go back on the car. And I can block the door out after that. This is what it looked like when it's prepped for the glaze. Started out like that, and I razor bladed it once I had the paint stripper eat most of it off. I've got to take this filler out right here on this corner where it started to crack. The rest of this is just in 180, and I'm going to skim the whole thing because I've gone to the fiberglass in a few places, and that'll just help me block it and level it back out. And like I said, this is going to get done and primed on both doors, and then I'll flip them over, sandblast the insides, and then I can go straight to paint in the jambs and not have to sand them. I decided to do a quarter panel back here. I cut the damage out, and I was going to just patch a piece in, but it'll be more work trying to get this seam hidden and working at this curve than it will be to just debond the whole quarter panel and just have one seam across. This is where the factory seamed it. I'll just have one seam right across here, and I can block that real easily. And back here where part of the deck got broken, right along this edge, this is the seam. Right along in here I can just add some fiberglass filler. Just taper this back, add some fiberglass filler, that'll be there anyway at the seam. And everything will be nice and clean and seamless except for the one seam that would have been there anyway, so I'll go right back to the way it was. Here's a new panel. Found a guy on eBay that had some originals laying around that came out of the same plant that made these for Chevrolet. Got this for about half the cost of Eckler's or somewhere like that. So another advantage of doing the whole quarter is you can see how many times this car's been painted, and once I take the quarter off, then I get rid of all that built up paint. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a solid quarter on it. Okay, almost ready for primer. Had to add a little bit in these two spots. Just need to block that out, but the rest of it's good. Didn't really need anything here. Just going to block that out with primer. But I want to make sure the large area was as flat as I can get it. Can't stand wavy fiberglass, so I'm going to go as flat as I can get it. This one I still need a DA. Same as that one. I went ahead and just worked on that one just since I had it ready. This one will be next. It'll get the same treatment as that one. And then I'll go ahead and prime the outside so I can flip them over and sandblast the jambs. Okay, I've got the doors ready to prime. I'm going to go ahead and do these by themselves. Just so I can flip these over and do the jambs after it's dry. Now this one, this back edge was broken off. I used some purple Fiber Tech from Evercoat. and I extended this out. You can see the back of the frame here. It stops about right there. I just added all this material and just cut it down with the file belt and some sandpaper and blocks just to extend it back down. Now I think it's a little bit too long, but I can just cut it down to where exactly it needs to be after I get it on the car. But I don't want to put it on the car just yet. I'm going to go ahead and get these primed. It should look like this. You can see it's a little bit longer, but I'll just cut it down a little bit further when I get it fit to the car. I'm not gonna worry about it now. It's fiberglass, so I can just sand it down and paint right over it. Don't have to worry about priming it again. I'm gonna go ahead and get at least 3 coats of high build primer on these, and then once they dry, I'll flip these over and start sandblasting the jams. But I've got to hang this door back on the car first to replace the quarter. Get the door in the right place, put the quarter on, then I'll pull this back off and do the jams on both. Okay guys, I wasn't able to film putting the quarter panel in, but essentially it just glues in with panel bond along this bonding strip up here where these 2 pieces meet, and there's a little bit of a gap that's filled. There's a rivet in the back. So I've got all this aligned. I've got the bumper holes aligned. I just lined that up with a drill bit and a clamp while I put this on and let the glue dry. Now there's panel bond along that seam down here, and right up in here there's another piece that contacts it, so it's panel bonded in a couple places down there. There's one that runs down this direction behind it all the way down to this corner. You can see it in here. I've got it bonded in along that edge, and I clamped it at the bottom down there once I got it in place. Let it sit for a couple days. I just came back and dished all this out, so this is nice and rounded. So this is rounded off into the seam, and so is this one. 3M recommends 3-inch dish, so 1.5 inches on either side. So this is basically what I dished out. So I'm going to use 5885, the rigid parts repair, for this. Similar to the 5887, but it's not flexible or as flexible. So I'll just have to build this up pretty thick and just wipe it out flat. Probably come back with a second application, and that's actually paintable. So if I can get it slick with that, block that out, then I'll be able to just prime over it. But this area down here is going to maybe need a little bit of glaze just to get any imperfections out of the fiberglass and just straighten it out completely. But essentially ready to do the fill now. Just got to go get it mixed up in the mixing tube or in the mixing tip. And just apply it to the car directly from the gun. Just fill it in and wipe it flat. But I'm ready to put it on. Got about a 10-minute work time at 70. It's about 60 or a little bit lower in here, so I got a little bit longer than that, which is good. Since I've got to fill that entire channel and then come back and wipe it, it's going to take me a minute or two to fill it all the way up, work my way down, because it doesn't come out real fast. All right, I'm going to purge the tip. You want to fill the tip up and run out 2 or 3 inches of it and throw it away. You don't want to use that part. It's not as mixed as well as it will be. I've got about 2/3 of a tube here. It should be enough to do this, hopefully. I need to fill this edge up a little bit too, because I've got it dished out around the side. And it's going to try to sag on me, so I may try to just fill up towards the top here. Let it run down. Fill the channel up, and I'll wipe it out flat so it won't run as bad, and I'll come back and maybe put another bead on top. I'm definitely gonna need some more, but I don't want to put so much that it runs off the seam too far. Now I need to press it in a little harder, but I'm just gonna spread it out so that it doesn't run, then I'll come back and press it in the scratches a little bit better. You want to really work it in there. All right, I'm going to do this again just to build it up some more. But I think you get the idea. I got to work quickly. I'm about to run out of time here. All right, here it is after the first application. You can still see the recessed area. There's just no way to get it thick enough without it just sagging. So I'll have to do a second layer, but I've got probably 75% of it filled in now. I'll pull this off while it's wet. I was trying to keep it out of the jam. On that second layer, after I sand this, I can put another bead through the center and build it up. And I can add a little more to this edge if I need to. And this back here where it wraps around to the bumper is going to need a little bit more too. But it's mostly filled. I'll just have to take some 180 to it, level it off, and then that'll have it scuffed for the next layer. This is a whole lot simpler than trying to fix all that damage that was back here, and plus I got rid of all those layers of paint that were on it on the other panel. That's it laying down there in pieces. I'm going to steal a piece out of that to fix the wheel well that's on the left front where it's broken out for about 3 inches. I think I can take a piece of that as long as the curvature is about the same. I can use it. If not, I'll just make some or take some long strand filler and just add to it.